Welcome back. The topic of this video is probably going to be somewhat morbid. It's what will happen to your slot car collection when you die. I want to be thorough, and so I've jotted down some notes here. So forgive me if I glance down from time to time because my memory isn't what it used to be, and it probably never was. But just bear with me as I go through my notes because I want to be thorough and I want to make sure I don't miss anything. If I do miss something, I'll leave it in the notes. You can leave a comment if you want to add on anything to what I'm saying, and that'll be great. I really look forward to hearing from you on this. So I'd like to start by saying my hobby and my passion is for slot cars. And at that, you can substitute anybody who's watching this now or anytime in the future. This is March of 2023. Anybody in the future who watches this, you could substitute the word slot cars for anything that you collect. This can apply to anything. And the general idea is to help your survivors carry on your wishes with what is passionate with you. Even though you're gone, you don't want to leave them a mess on what you may have collected. And in my case, it's slot cars. Anybody who's watching this is probably slot cars. But like I said, you're welcome to just substitute that term for whatever fits in there for you. As you know, many of us are getting older every day. We're not getting any younger, but regardless, this is something my favorite pastor said many years ago, and I'll never forget this. He said, death is not something that you're walking towards. It's not a destination. It's not something your path is going to lead you to. It's something that's always right beside you. Now, that's very eerie when you think of it, but it's always right there, and at any single second, millisecond, any moment, death can reach out to you. And I know that's eerie. That's probably not what you came here for, but I just want to get that out of the way, that you can never prepare well enough or predict anything in life. That being said, before you do pass away, it's probably a good idea to make the process easier for what you're leaving behind for your inheritors, your family, your loved ones, your friends. Make this process as easy as you can for them. The best way that I've found, I'm going to share some tips with you that help me, that I've done, and it's the best I could do to prepare to make things easier. For one, create and then print out a spreadsheet listing all of your slot cars and all accessories that go with it. Google Sheets is free and it works just fine. A nice spreadsheet. You can always add lines or columns and change the widths, whatever. It's perfectly fine, perfectly free, and it's great for this process or any other similar process. It's something I keep up with all the time, to be able to easily oversee exactly what's going on in my slot car collection. Any little minor changes I make as I receive a new car, or I fine tune a car or something, I'll list that. And as something goes wrong with cars, I'll list it until I fix it, and then I'll go back and change that. So I'm constantly getting into that spreadsheet, and it helps me enjoy the hobby. It's just something that to oversee the list of everything, it's an enjoyment to be able to keep track and to know exactly what's going on, especially if you get busy with life and you can't get to things for a few weeks or months or whatever. You come back to it, you know exactly where you stand, you know which cars are having issues and things like that. So that's very helpful for you as a collector to begin with, or as a racer, enthusiast, whatever you want to call yourself. Now, you can save this as a file on your computer, laptop, phone, whatever you're using, and that's great. But something may happen to that device, even when you're alive, but after you pass away, something may happen to that device. It might get lost in the shuffle. Someone might come in during some kind of estate sale and take off with it. It could drop on the floor and it's damaged and broken, and people don't know, your family doesn't know what's on there, and they don't think it's anything of value anymore, so they might just throw it away. It's beyond repair. It's lost. It can get corrupted files. So many things can happen to that file on your computer. So I highly suggest, when you get this spreadsheet all done and all your cars and everything, that I'm gonna go through everything, but when you get everything in place, I suggest to print it out. And that would do wonders for whoever's inheriting your collection, whether it's your spouse, whoever, to see this printout and to have it and to know this is pretty much the very latest that you've been working with this collection. And keep that printout in a common location with your slot cars, with the majority of your cars. If you have them on this shelf up here, put it right up there on that shelf in a visible spot, maybe even on top of a car case or something, where it just lies on it or something. That's what I do. And this way, anybody who's taking down your cars, they'll see it and they'll say, now we know what we could do with this. Now on this spreadsheet, first things first is to leave a cover sheet to let your loved ones know what this printout is all about. You can handwrite it on this cover sheet, your own personal handwriting, or use Google Docs, another free program that's easy and easy to make changes and things. Put that, make that sheet and print it out and put it as a cover sheet on this, spreadsheet. Let your loved ones know how much you love them on this cover sheet. This is the time to do it. We don't say it enough. Maybe we say it to our spouse every day, I love you, good night, whatever, or to your kids when you hang up on the phone. But you might not say it to everyone that you do know and love, your friends, your family, extended family. This is your chance to really jot that stuff down and make sure you mention them. And that will go a long way. That's something, this is your chance to say what needs to be said and what should be said by everyone every day, but you know how things are. Let's see, I apologize. I'm just making sure I'm getting everything. Describe your passion for slot cars. Your family and friends may not know the extent of your passion, your love for this hobby. They might say, oh yeah, we know Grandpa, he loved to work on motorcycles, and he had RC vehicles, and he had, all kinds of gizmos that he worked on. So this was another one of his hobbies. But they don't know the extent that you might have all that stuff going on, or did, and you still have them. You might have RC cars gathering dust because now you found slot cars and you're into this, and you're spending 99% of your time with slot cars, and your love and attention is all going to slot cars. So they might not know that. So this is the chance to tell them just how much it means to you, if it does. I'm just saying, in my case, I'm going to say this. But everyone's different. Everyone's got different degrees and different things. Let's see. You also have to understand that whoever's inheriting this, your family, whoever, may not enjoy them as much as you do. It just might not be their thing. You might have tried to introduce them, somewhere along the way to your kids or grandkids, your wife, and you just got this vibe. They're not interested. They don't care. They think it's silly, whatever the deal is. Nobody has to like anything because you like it. I mean, after all, if you're, God forbid, your mother passes away and she leaves, 1,000 of her little precious moment figurines or whatever she collects, and now they have to be shipped to you, and now you have your living room is filled with these 1,000 precious moments figurines. You don't necessarily want them. You know how much your mother loved them, and that will always mean something to you, but you don't have a spot for them. You don't have a love for them like she did. You may want to keep, one or two or how many that you know were very meaningful to her, and just decide who gets what and whatever. But understand that it works that way too. When you die, people might not really appreciate things as much as you do. Everyone has their own interest. Your inheritors might not have room for them, even if they do want them. They live in a one-bedroom apartment in New York City. What are they going to do with 2,000 slot cars? They have no room. No, even if they wanted to, there's no possible way. And to rent out storage space, it's ridiculous. So it's not going to happen. They also might have to be dealing with other things, your furniture, your other hobbies, your book collection, whatever it is, and not to mention your funeral and your bank and all that stuff they're dealing with. This is something that it's more of a headache of what you had in some cases. You may be lucky. In some cases, you might have people that you're leaving this to that really enjoy the hobby as much as you do. And that would be fantastic, and that would be ideal. But it doesn't always work that way. So just understand that they may just want to dispose of your collection and just as quickly as possible. So you may want to list what your very favorite cars are in this little cover sheet, and tell them why. Explain why they're your favorites. Maybe it was your very first slot car. This is a car that you wanted in real life and you always dreamed of it, and here's your slot car version of it. Whatever the reason is, or the memories. I took this on my first date with the girl who became my wife. This slot car was sitting in the back seat. Whatever the case is. You want to list the approximate amount and locations of your collection. If you have your cars in different locations, they may all be in the same room, and they may all be in your garage, your shed, your attic, wherever. They're all in one spot. That's fantastic. But sometimes that's not possible. You have little spots that you're putting them in. Maybe, you have a friend that you just lent 20 cars to, and he's storing them at his house because when you go to race at his track, so you've got your 20 cars there. So list that. This is the place to list where all your cars can be found and reclaimed, if that's the case, And every collection is important, regardless of the amount of cars that you have. You might be brand new to the hobby. You just discovered it just last week. You already got a starter set. You picked it up from the hobby store. You brought it home. You set it up. You loved it. You have the 2 cars in the set. You went back to the hobby store and you bought 5 more cars. So you have 7 cars. You think, well, it's not important. But those 7 cars altogether, the set cost you $400. Each one of those cars, you have exquisite tastes, and each one of those cars you went and got from that hobby shop, each one cost you $150. That you love those cars, and you were like, I'm going all in. I'm putting $1,000 whatever dollars into this hobby right up front. And so now you come home and you've got your 7 cars. God forbid, death right beside you, and here he is, strikes you just like that. You didn't even really get a chance to get this underway, even though you intended. You never got the chance. So now you're looking at, 7 slot cars. Now your wife or spouse inherits these cars. You didn't leave anything in the will. It just automatically goes to her. No word, no mention of any of this. So she doesn't know what to do. She just thinks, they're toy cars. My husband liked to play with toy cars. It was this fun thing he just started. She has a garage sale gets rid of the stuff in your house eventually, not like the week after you died, but 6 months down the road, she cleans out the closet. She has to face this stuff, and she gets rid of your toys. She has a big yard sale. People ask her, she's got the 7 slot cars out there. What do you want for this? And she doesn't know anything. She might say, I'll give it to you all for $10. It seems about right. They're toys, $10. So meanwhile, just like that, she lost out on an opportunity that she might have needed that money, and that could have come in very handy, but that, just like that just went out the window for lack of, So, again, forgive me. Make a rough guesstimate of the overall value of your collection. Just a solid guesstimate number. So there's a ballpark figure of all the cars, the tracks, the sets. You could break this down any way you want. You could say my cars are worth $2,000. My tracks are worth $500. My other equipment for my slot cars is worth $100. My tires are worth $50. You could break it down any way you want. You could just one general figure. Everything is $10,000. Everything. So this way, your relatives, your inheritors, they know and understand what they're looking at when they see your collection. They get a sense of the value, even though it may not be extremely accurate. It's in the ballpark somewhat. So provide that much and put that on your sheet. And that includes things like tire truers and soldering irons you're using for the hobby, anything that's hobby related, all the equipment, the cases, whatever, all of that together. Just provide that for them. And this number will help them just in case somebody comes around and gives them a number figure of, I'll buy that collection. I heard your husband had this collection. I'd like to buy it from you, and I'll give you $300 for this, but meanwhile, your spouse knows, hey, he said it was worth $10,000 and I'm $300 or whatever. No. So just for that helps enormously, just for that case. Now make a list of who's inheriting your cars. Is it your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, your parents, your in-laws, your favorite uncle, your nieces and nephews, your racing buddy, your neighbor next door who always comes over and races with you in the garage, the mailman who you talk to, he's delivering your slot cars and you get in a nice friendly conversation with him and now you're friends and hey, he's a great guy and there's nobody else. Maybe you're living alone, you don't have a family, but you're great friends with the mailman. Hey, the mailman. Your best friend since childhood. Just think of the people who may be interested or who do deserve something from you and after you're gone. Decide how your cars are going to be distributed. Now remember, I say slot cars, but it means anything. Can you slot car tracks if that's all you have, or your Beanie Babies or whatever. But decide how they will be distributed. For some cars, you might have some special people in mind for them. Your racing buddy loves that yellow Corvette, and he always admires it every time you bring that out to race. So leave that for him, and then the rest go to your spouse, if that's the case. If you have no one else, make sure your buddy gets that nice yellow Corvette that he loves, and he would cherish that, and maybe even more than that. But you want to take care of your spouse and make sure, or your dependents. Your uncle gets the green Gremlin that he loves, or your daughter has a red Camaro that she drives, and you bought a slot car because it looks like her red Camaro. Make sure she gets that red Camaro. You can pinpoint all your cars like this, designate them for whoever you feel deserves them or wants to have them. You could say, my only child gets everything and that's it, or my spouse gets everything and that's it. I have 2 children, they split it in half. Now you have to still determine who gets what. So you could set up a draft process, explain that these are your wishes. You want to have a draft process where everyone on that list gets to pick one at a time until all the cars are selected, and then that's their collection. They could do anything afterwards. They could trade after the draft or anything, whatever they want to do, sell off their part. They're entitled to it because those were your wishes to hold that draft. And that draft could take a long time, as long as it takes before all the cars are picked. It might be in one evening. Everybody gets together, remembers you, and has their little draft. It takes a couple hours, and everybody goes home with their cars. And then they're free to do whatever. Or you could just sell everything. Have whoever is inheriting sell everything, have somebody in charge of it, and have a list, have a amount of the total sales, the total net sales after all the fees and all that and taxes, whatever was taken out. Have that net amount, and then everybody could distribute that evenly, or whatever percentage you want them to have. You want your wife to have 90%, and your child to have 5%, and you have 5 grandchildren, each one to have 1%, whatever you decide. Now, if you can, talk with them now about all this while you're still alive. That's the ideal situation. Discuss this with them. So this way there's no surprises. They can ask questions. But I know that's not how it works sometimes. It's just not possible. You might not want to reveal the extent of your collection, the value of your collection. You don't want these figures known. It's just something that is personal and private to you. You're concerned about your safety or your well-being or the safety of anyone else. So there's reasons why you may not want to have someone know what they're going to be receiving. And that goes with a lot of things. So be careful there. But if you do feel comfortable, have this talk with them before this all happens. You don't want fighting within your family or friends after you're gone. That's not what you want. You want to have a great experience for them. Now, how to sell your cars, how your inheritors can sell your cars. They could pick a trustworthy member of the group that is inheriting the cars, or some other trustworthy friend or family member who can list them and sell them separately and individually on eBay or any other auction site, or list them for sale if they know the exact amount that they want for each car, if everybody can agree to that amount. But it's probably best to do an auction. And then this is going to be extremely time consuming for that person or persons doing that. But they'll get a good market value return of each car in your collection. Sometimes it's really hard to determine what the value is, the current value. It just fluctuates, and it's really whoever is willing to spend the money to buy each one of your cars, that's what the car is worth, So you might want to give them some kind of, like a commission, 40% or whatever you want to decide their work would be worth to do all this extra work on top of whatever they're inheriting. They're doing all this extra work, and it's a lot of work if you have a lot of cars. If you have 7 cars, it's not much work. One person can do it, list them all within a few minutes. They're all up and sold within a few days. And that's that. So you don't have to assign a high commission if you don't want for that. But the more cars you have, I would give a higher commission. That's up to you. You could sell them all in one lot to a trustworthy collector who always receives high marks, high praises, who's very caring, and will do you right, do your inheritors right. They'll give you a good amount. Now, you've already given your family a good number, approximate number. Maybe you might be a little high on that, and the collector will set them back down if they reveal that number to that person. They might say, that is a little high. You might not be able to get that. It's a little linking in the clouds. I'm going to give you a solid offer, and this will save you all the time and work and the commission of the person to list them and all that. And it could be a good figure close to the ballpark you're looking for, so you'll go with it. Others might lowball you. The first one coming around, the first few coming around might lowball you because they know the good people are on their way over, so they want to jump them, and they'll give you some lowball offer hoping that you're going to take it. They run out and they'll laugh all the way to their bank with your slot car collection and what they're going to make out of it on reselling it individually, because they know what they have. If your spouse or dependents need the income when you're gone, this is important to make sure that they get this right. They do this right. So make sure that this is shown right to them and they understand, or they have a good way to understand. Okay, getting back to the spreadsheet now. List every car in the spreadsheet in full detail. Like I said, Google Sheets is free and it's very easy. If you need details, I could teach you. Ask me, drop me a line. I can show you how to set it up. It's very simple. If I could do it, it's very simple. You can add lines, like I said, add columns, subtract columns, widen, the length and width of the columns, and it's endless. And so as you're adding and redoing things, it'll be very simple. Now, within this spreadsheet, try to keep the manufacturers grouped together. Keep your Carreras up here, maybe alphabetical order. Carrera, Pioneer, CP, Scalectric, S, Slotted, SL. So keep them maybe alphabetized in the general areas of manufacturers. And within those manufacturers, the slot car manufacturers, try to group similar cars. Keep all your Corvettes here, or if you have a lot of Corvettes, your C8Rs here, followed by, you have 3 C7Rs, 2 C6Rs, try to keep it in order, maybe in the reverse order of what I just said, but try to keep them grouped together. And then, describe them. It's a 1982 Chevrolet Corvette Z28. Nice full description. In another column, you keep the number of the car. If it's a race car, you write the number of the car. And also, while you're doing this is a good chance to physically keep your cars grouped together. Keep all your, this is my Pioneer box. I'll show you this. I'll tip it without tipping everything over. But I physically keep all my Pioneer cars together, which actually, there's another legend car on the way, the Smokies Racing Legends, the black and gold car is on its way here. So when that arrives, I don't think I have a spot for it in this box, so I'm gonna have to get a second Pioneer box. And I just use these plastic cases. You can get them for $1 a piece or whatever at the dollar store. You can get a stack of 10 of them and put all your cars in, and whatever you need. You can buy 100 of them, and they hold a lot of cars. I tend to keep all my Carrera cars in their original cases because they're very solid, beautiful, well done cases. And so all my Carrera cars are in those cases. It's the Slotteds and the Pioneers and the Scalectrics. I don't care for their cases. They're a little tough to get out. Sometimes you have to unscrew the screw they give you. You need to get a screwdriver to get it out, not just twist it. It's too much work for me, so I just put them in this case. And I don't have this one listed here, but you could put right across the top here, just print out something or write something that says Pioneer, or in my case here, this will be Pioneer 1 or Pioneer A. There'll be a second Pioneer box, Pioneer B, or I could put Pioneer Legends on this box. Whatever you want, however specific you want to get. Then there's, for HO, I'm going to do this without tipping everything over. This is my Aurora AFX, And this is box C of my magnet tractions. So I have an Aurora C magnet traction. Now I have an A, B, C, D. So this is all stored together. These are all stacked together. And as you can see, within the Aurora magnet tractions, I've kept the cars together. You know, the Chevelles are together, and the Mercuries and the Thunderbirds and the Javelins. I keep them together, you know, and same with all the other cases. And that'll help, that'll do wonders for your inheritor trying to find a car. You know, see it on their spreadsheet, and they'll see it physically together, and they know, oh, here's all the Chevelles, they're right there. So, and then there'll be the description. Now, also in these cases, I do keep them all on their sides. That keeps the tires from flat spotting. And I also have, they're sitting on this bubble wrap underneath everything. So just to keep everything from, you know, keep everything as well protected as I can. And there's a cover for that case. Everything's covered to keep the dust out and whatever else. So for that, that's something that really goes a long ways. Make sure physically the cars are together. Let's see. I apologize. All right. Now, like I said, for race cars, you want to have the number. If there's a number on the car, you know, this Pioneer Legend, you'll show it's red, it's number 77. You can have a description as best you can, as much detail as you want to go, or as little detail as you want to go. For some, you might just say the red number 77, and that's where number 77 Legend. That's good. Whatever you want to go through. The more detail you give, the more specific, and the easier it'll be for your inheritor, but that's also more tedious for you and more tedious for them to look through. So just keep it to where there's a level that is comfortable for everybody involved, what you feel is comfortable. Now, also there's, you know, Smart Race. If you have that, you can direct them to the Smart Race app. It might have everything in your collection all listed with the pictures and with the history of the car, changes you've made, whatever you've done with it is all shown. You could just direct them to the Smart Race app. And again, that's something that's not, you know, that's on your tablet or whatever. So if there's a way to print it out, maybe there is, but if you could print that information out, that would be great. But if anything, you do have it on Smart Race, and you could just say, hey, look on Smart Race, it's right there. You know, no password on the tablet, just open it up and it's right there. That would be ideal, easy. Let's see. Also on this spreadsheet, you want to have the columns. You start with the numbers and the colors. You want to list the manufacturer's product number. You know, Tyco 6903. That's the manufacturer's Tyco number for their slot car, 6903. It's usually, you know, 4 or 5 digit number. Carrera might have, if it's a digital, it's 30915. You know, something like that, or slot. Every manufacturer has their own number. AFX Aurora is a little, you know, back then they didn't, it's a little wonky on the numbers they kept, but normally there's good systems. So with that, you know, your inheritor can track down that number by Googling that. You can even mention Google that number with the manufacturer, and the picture of the car will come up, and they'll say, oh, there it is right there. And also what chassis the car is sitting on. Is it still, now this car was a Tyco 440X2 when it first came out, but you've got it on an HP7 somehow. It got switched around, you've got it on an HP7 chassis. Make a note of that. Make a note of what, you know, the original chassis should be if you want, or just people should be just happy that they have this car and it's on an HP7 now. But if they need to resell it, they need to make sure that they show that. They'll take a picture of it anyway, so people, interested buyers, would see that. If it, you know, whatever, if it's a scratch-built chassis, mention that. Or you did some kind of aftermarket thing, a Bullfrog, or whatever, you know, Harding Creek stuff, or whatever you put on there. aftermarket or scratch build or something, just make that known, put it on the list. If you need to put it in just a single letter and then have that letter as a key, lead to a key, and then you could say, S means scratch build. So they'll know every time they see an S, that's a scratch build chassis. 440X2, that's a Tyco 440X2. MT, magnet traction. NMT, AFX non-magnet traction. Whatever code you want, or just spell it out if you want to have that spreadsheet go long. Now, when I was a kid, I mixed up, I had Aurora AFX, and I mixed up all their chassis to begin with, because sometimes you got a car like the Matador stockers, the big thick wide ones, they wouldn't hold the chassis right. The body would sit kind of funky, and sometimes as you're racing it would kind of jostle around, and you could have a fast chassis on there and it's fast, but you're not getting the times because that stupid body is not holding. So what I did, and what maybe a lot of kids did, was switch those around. You want to race your friends with your fastest combination of body and chassis, so you played around with it, and I did that. So all my chassis are screwed up with my AFX magnet traction. Now in later days, I kept the chassis where they belong, but but if that's the case with you, then just make a note of that. This is the current chassis it's on. If there's any known variation in that car, that you have this, current, this variation, like it has, especially with HO cars, this version has the clear windshield, the headlights, clear headlights, and some have painted headlights. You have the clear headlight version. List that, clear headlights, in your notes section along that stretch of, the listing for that car along that line. List the current condition of the car, the last time you oiled it. And when I oil a car, when I get a new car, I'll run it, I'll break it in for, my process is 70 laps when I get a new car. 70 laps around the track, stop, oil it, lube it, get all on the gears, then do another 30 laps to work that in. And now my car is set. So now I put the date down that I did that. I have that as a little column, the date that this car was last oiled. So, and I just do month and year. I don't bother with the day. So it would be, if I did it today, it would be March of 2023. So I put 0323. So I can look down my whole list and I could see the last time I oiled every car. If I have a car from 2021 was the last oiling, I might take that out, give it a few laps, and oil it. This way it's up to date, and I'll change that from 12/21 to 0323. So then if you have new front tires or rear tires you placed on it, or if you upgraded the pickup shoes, new pickup shoes, or the braids, whatever the case may be, give it a current rating. This is all an arbitrary rating from you, but it could be helpful. I rate this car, the condition of this car is a B. It has some scrapes on the side, runs fantastic, everything is new, but it's got those scrapes, so I rate it a B. It's all, you might not even go there, but if you do, that helps. Every little bit helps. I'm just trying to get all this out there. If you made any improvements from the stock tires, if you upgraded to urethanes or silicone or gel claws or whatever the case may be, list that. Put JC for gel claws, S for silicones, PGT if you use Paul Gage tires, or if there's still stock rubber, SR, whatever your system is, whatever works for you, to indicate what's currently sitting on the car. If you've upgraded the guide blades or the guide pins, whatever the case may be, if you used Frankenslide or slot invasion guide blades, you can list that, show that this car is upgraded with that. These cars aren't, yes or no, or put a F for Frankenslide, SI for slide invasion. For HO cars, if you broke the plastic guide pin, now it's metal that you replaced it with, indicate that. Just a quick little number or digit or numeral, whatever you need to do to indicate that. Whether you have the magnets in the car or no magnets, and where they're now located. Are the magnets in the case? Like if I take a magnet out of my Carrera car and it's in the back of the case, that's where the magnets are stored. Indicate that. Or if the car never had a magnet, you would just say no magnets. If it's somewhere else, if you have a pile of your replacement parts and your magnets in a bag for all your cars, indicate where that's at, and that's what, where they can find it if they want to replace those magnets in order to use them or sell them or whatever they want to do. Or any other alterations you made from the stock version. If you put a slotted axle in a Carrera car, if you, sanded, a little bit of the car away to make things fit, or lowered something, or raised something, whatever small alterations you did, list them. Every little bit helps. You don't have to do this. You can go as far as you want, as deep as you want, but just put in these ideas out there. If you're scratch building some cars, list that and make a note that they may be one of a kind. Let them know they're not going to find this car. You might not find another one in the world like this. This is a one of a kind car, but it may not carry significant value. Maybe people really don't care for this. They don't want a scratch build car. They want a factory, manufactured car. And, maybe they think you didn't do such a great job. It doesn't look so good, but it's your pride and joy. But let your family or whoever know that this is your pride and joy. You built this yourself. You want this to be in the family. Otherwise, if I did it, it's going to look like a piece of crap, honestly. And it's probably going to get thrown away unless I say something. This is my first scratch built car, and I'm proud of it. And I'd love for this to carry on to my great grandchildren if possible. Just to put it there. Now, there's some cases where you've done some work to cars, like this is a car, this is Carrera's Chevelle, and this was a car that I was highly trying to find, and I could not find anywhere. And when I did see it pop up on auctions, it was going for a crazy amount of money, so I guess a lot of people want this car. It came out maybe in 2009 or something like that, somewhere around there. And so it's long out of print. There's very few left, probably. People who do have it are holding on to them, and occasionally you might see one pop up. I happened to see one pop up. They wanted $60 for it, very reasonable price. The only thing, it had no front bumper, had no rear bumper, had no driver, and had no driver's side rear view mirror. Now, of course, this is a street car, so it only has the driver's side rear view mirror from 1970. So what I did was, I had this car, this other Chevelle, and I took a look, and it occurred to me, they have the same measurements. It's also a Chevelle, same front and rear bumpers for the most part. And I saw this come up, and I already had this full car, digital, and I saw this come up as just the shell, and someone was selling just the shell. And so I was like, if I just buy another shell for, I think it was $20, and I can take the parts, scavenge the parts off that I need and put them on here. And that's what I did. That's the front bumper from that Chevelle, the second version of that. The rear bumper, the only drawback is this is the license plate that's on the Chevelle and not on this Chevelle, and not on, that should be with this one. But that's okay for me, but I'm going to list that regardless. Make sure whoever gets this knows, for one thing, this is probably my top car of all time, or maybe the Ferrari. That's debatable. I'm not getting into that now. But this driver is from that Chevelle. I know it. I don't care. There's a driver sitting in there. He's got his suit on, but that's fine in a street car. He's got the new rear view mirror, which is probably very similar or maybe exactly the same as what should be on this Chevelle, so I just make a note of what I've done to it. And of course, it's got the slot invasion guide and, Paul gauge tires on it. And also, sometimes you might have a box. Now, in this case, I had another box, another Carrera case that's blue, and this Chevelle is digital, so it is in this blue box. But sometimes I might upgrade a car. You get a digital chip, you put it in there, and now it came in as an analog, an analog Carrera car from Evolution. So you've got the black box, but now it's digital. So now whoever's got your collection is going to say, oh, look, black box, I know that. Black box means Evolution. That means it's not digital, it's analog. So you need to make sure in your notes you put in that you have a digital chip in this car. And also, since this box was a generic box, I made my own tag with it, indicating what it is exactly. In some cases, and I'm a little more specific than the actual, what's on Carrera's actual tags. I'll list the actual number of the car. In this case, it's 30483. And in some cases, if it's digital, if it was analog, I would put, 27849 plus chip equals 30847 or whatever it is. I'll put that right there so they'll know, this car, it's a black box, but it says it's got a digital chip in it. So things like that, very helpful. This way nothing gets, this car can sell for a lot more as a digital than it can as an Evolution. In most cases, you want that to be maximized. Let's see. Oh yeah, if there are any defects with the car, like the car's currently not running, you meant to, repair the engine or the chip or whatever, and you died and you never got around to it, but it's listed on your spreadsheet. It's currently not running, so they'll know it doesn't run. If they want to sell it as is, say it doesn't run, unless maybe they could fix it. You can give them details on that. The broken wing was glued on, so they could see, yep, that wing was glued on. You did a great job with it. You can hardly tell, but it was. So you want to list that on the spreadsheet under defects. There's a scrape on the roof. They could probably see that. You missed in the driver's side mirror or the passenger side mirror. They could probably see that, but they might not realize it until they see it on your list. The window posts on the HO cars tend to break a lot. A lot of the times they're damaged. You want to show that, list that, because they might not see it. It might be minuscule, but it's there. It's a break. In this case, the incorrect bumper, but that's just something to put down. Then put random notes of interest, that it was a set car, an only set car, and name that set. Write that set on that line of what set that car came in. You can only find it there, not single, individual, sold. Maybe assign like a rarity rating to it, like Bob Beers and whoever have their rarity ratings of 1 to 5, and you can do your own system on how rare you feel that car is. Now that's subjective to change, but you do your best. You also want to write the date purchased, where you purchased it, and the price you purchased it for. I break it down into the price plus shipping plus tax. I have 3 figures, so I'll say, Carrera slots, $45 plus 9 shipping plus 0 tax, something like that, on March 5th, 2023, 030523. Explain also that if a car, unless that a car has never been removed from the case, there's probably slight imperfections, like light scratches. They might not see, you might not realize it, and that should always be mentioned if this is going to be listed up for auction. Always say, it may have this, it may have that, it may have slight scratches. My dad raced it on his track, or maybe he just drove it on his track, but even driving it on the track, there's times where it might spin out, tip over, slide across the track, hit the wall, and now you've got very slight scratches, but they're there, and someone who buys the car might be expecting this pure car, but then they could see this slight scratch, they come back, and then there's an issue. You want to just say it's sold as is, have them say it's sold as is, and that's the end of it. Show pictures of it as detailed as you can be. You're not hiding anything, they're not hiding anything. And also, even cars that have never been removed from the case are not, may not be subject to, quality control issues from the factory. There's always those things going on. The tires in the case it's been sitting in for 10 years might melt or harden, just sitting there in the case and never been removed from their post. But there's issues going on day by day that's happening. So be aware of that. Check your cars, check the tires occasionally, make sure they look okay. If you've never removed it, never taken out of the seal or the plastic, also let your inheritors know that these issues can happen. Always sell it as is, and you believe to be in the shape that you believe it's in. Also, chips can fail. It never was taken from the case, but the chip doesn't work. The engine doesn't work. The lights don't work. Number of issues. So as is takes care of all that. You don't want to hear it. Once it's sold, hey, we told you, not that you're trying to do that to anybody, but you don't want a headache. You don't want your inheritors to have a headache from that. Okay. Explain either here or on your cover sheet that the price you paid may not indicate the current market value. You may have overpaid or underpaid at the time. Maybe you really wanted this car. I would have paid, $700 for this Chevelle if I couldn't get it anywhere. Who knows? I might have gone crazy and overpaid for a car that was probably worth $75. So what I paid for it doesn't really reflect on the actual value. There are so many external values in the market value that fluctuate, and things like even the unfortunate death of a driver, like recently Ken Block, caused maybe his cars to increase in value, and maybe at the current moment the cars that feature him are worth so much more. That might come down in time. Who's to say? So you have to take all that consideration on what the current market value is, but again, it's only really what somebody is currently willing to pay for it when it's being sold. Those things just can't be foreseen, Now, this is currently a hobby that's overwhelmingly been for 50 and up. Slot car craze was in the 60s and 70s. It started to dwindle out. So a lot of the people are from those generations that are now retiring and getting back into it. And now they want to partake in this hobby. And so that's what it's been. But who knows what's going to happen in a few years from now. There's this current movement of a younger generation, people like, Marty Ford and, Massimo and that slot car guy and Rahul. And there's so many. I'm sorry if I'm leaving anyone out. Area 51. There's younger people on YouTube, in the Facebook groups, wherever you're going to find a younger generation coming up behind the old guard. And as the old guard starts to pass away, the younger generation is coming in with their own values and their own ideals, and they're driving this. These guys I just mentioned are really driving this to a new level that it hasn't seen since the 60s, and it's resurgent. We don't know where this is going to take off to. It could just drop off the edge again, and now you have people dying who are in their 80s with their big collections, and nobody cares for those cars. The cars that they spent $200 a piece on are now, their families can't sell them for $5 because nobody's interested. We don't know. Or maybe it might go the other way. Those cars that they spent $200 a piece on are now worth $1,000 because everyone's interested. Everybody wants a piece of this nostalgia, that their grandparents had, great grandparents. So you just don't know. And also, since the pandemic, a lot more people have been exposed to slot car racing. A lot more grandfathers, people my age. I'm going to be 60 this year. Now I have grandchildren that are up and coming that I want to show them the joys of this hobby. And there's a lot of cases like this around the world. And a lot of grandfathers and fathers want to share this with their kids growing up. And so who knows where those kids are going to take this. But they're being exposed to this. They're being exposed to slot cars in a way that maybe the previous generations haven't been, And digital technology has taken off through the roof. Digital racing was something, when I got back into this in 2021, I was just floored on where digital took this hobby. And I knew, oh my gosh, this is for me. I loved slot cars all my life, but yeah, whatever. But now this is completely for me. And who knows where digital is going to lead to? Who knows what is in store? There's 3D printing. People can print out their own cars, have their own parts. The sky's the limit. So with all this going on, this could be an enormous hobby. And who knows? Okay, you want to list helpful tips on how to repair or upkeep the cars. Something you could just a quick helpful tip. You have your tire truer, give them little tips on what to do. They might not ever care about this stuff, but hey, just put it there if you want. And it's stuff that they could read through one night, You can list helpful links to helpful websites or YouTube videos or video creators that are very helpful in learning about different areas, if they have problems or issues, or just learning about different things in general. Direct them to these websites or YouTube links and things. Make a list of knowledgeable people in the hobby that it may at least direct them to a helpful solution. If the guy at your slot car club is willing to help people, write his name down and phone number on the list. Tell him you're doing this, and then write his name down. So if your son or daughter needs to call and ask a few questions, he's going to be helpful and try to help them get through whatever their issue is, if you do know someone like that. Also, let them know how to track test a car. When you put it on the track, let them know which cars go on which track. Digital cars only work on Carrera digital track, or Scalextric cars on Scalextric digital. If it's got a digital chip inside it, even though it's a Pioneer, let them know that the Carson chip is in there and it will run on a Carrera digital. Let them know which cars run on which track. Take a picture maybe of each track, or set it aside next to this list of what each track is and what it means. You can also tell them how to test a car without having the track set up, just by battery testing it, whatever needs to be done. Just give them that information. And like I said, just print out everything. Leave that printout in an easy to find location where the majority of your cars can be found. Let's see. If there's any other things like you didn't get to because you passed away and you had a shipment of cars come in, now the mailman brought your cars, but you passed away. So there's going to be cars that aren't listed, or some things you got busy with work and you didn't get to. It's not updated on your list. You repaired an engine recently, but you didn't get to list it that you repaired it. There's going to be those odds and ends, of course. You can't be perfect, and don't expect to be perfect. But for the most part, everything will be there, what people need. And if they're so inclined, they could piece together the puzzles of the missing cars. They piece out everything and see, oh, I've got 3 cars left over. What are they? So now they're on a mission to find out what those cars are. They put it on the track, see what condition it's in, things like that. Now, by doing all this, you're helping to maximize or at least get fair value for your collection, for your inheritors. You're also helping out the rest of us in this hobby, because the value of the cars, of your cars, isn't becoming diminished. You see, if your inheritor doesn't know the true identity of a car, they might just put it up on eBay and list it as slot car. And take a couple pictures of it, put it up as slot car. Sure, it might get noticed, but if you do a search of slot car right now on eBay, you might come up with 140,000 some odd listings, slot car. That might just get lost in the shuffle, just get lost in space somewhere. They're never gonna, people aren't gonna see that. If they're more specifically listed, you know, this is a Tyco, Corvette, you know, GT, whatever, number 7, whatever you want to list it at, on a 440X2 chassis, whatever they want to list it at, or just as a Tyco slot car, that alone will get that in a more specific group and more visible to people. And that will help out the rest of the community, because the car will sell for what it should approximately be worth. You know, you can never tell at any given time. Things could be, you know, fluctuate with whoever wants to buy something. So, excuse me 1 second. Sorry, I have paused my TV, and I guess after an hour it starts playing again, so that's what that noise was. Yeah, no, sorry. Okay, it's off now, so no more disruptions, but I think I'm just about done. I think I've taken up a lot of your time with this, but I hope this could be helpful. Yeah, like I was saying, if you're selling, your inheritors are selling the cars for the true value, approximate worth, that only helps out the rest of us, because if they list this as slot car and it gets seen by one person because they search slot car, or it just happened to come up, and they say, oh, okay, I'll bid on it. Bidding starts at $9.99. They bid $9.99. Nobody else saw it. Bid went by. $9.99. A few days later, they win. That's theirs. So now the next person who goes to sell a Chevelle, they'll research and they'll see this car, and they say, oh, this car, I guess because it's old, I don't know, it's sold for $9.99, so I'm going to list it, buy it now for $10, $11, you know, because it's a worthless model, you know. So, and that just drags down the value of all the cars that are, you know, sold and listed after that. You see what I'm saying? That's a little extreme, but that could happen. So in order to stay away from that situation, it's good to let your inheritors be armed with this information. It's good for everybody involved. Now, you know, this all could be a moot point if you're leaving a $47 million inheritance to your inheritors. They're not going to care about your $1,000 slot car collection. They don't care. They're getting $47 million split 3 ways, so they're done. They're going on vacations. They could give these to charity, whatever they want to do, which is fine, really. You know, it's theirs to do with what they want to do with. And if you know you're going to be leaving a $47 million inheritance, then you probably don't have to bother with this stuff unless it means something to you, or maybe just pick out what means something to you. You know, your favorite car you want to go to your son. You know, your niece loves this particular car, you want her to have it. Your best friend, you know, just do that much if you're inclined to do so. Yeah, all right, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm sorry for taking up your time, but I just really wanted to get this out, and I thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments below. You can make that an addendum if I've missed anything, if you want to go further with anything I've said or correct anything I've said. I may have made a mistake or so in this video, so let that be an addendum to what's going on, and we'll take it from there. I look forward to all the comments. I'll read through them all and I'll respond to every one of them. And thank you for watching, and hit the like button, please. That's important to me. If you hit the like button, that shows me that people do care, at least, of what I'm saying. You could subscribe to my channel if you like. I just do this for fun. There's a number of people who are doing this who are way more knowledgeable than I am and way more entertaining than I am. So, make sure you subscribe to their videos. You can subscribe to mine if you like my channel. I do my best. I'm just here to have fun. If I could help out in any way, push this hobby to another level, I'll be there pushing to another level. I'm not here for any other reasons. So like, subscribe. You can hit the notification button if you're so inclined, that little bell, and that'll say, whenever I have a new video pop up. It's just something fun that I'll be doing, and you'll see that it comes up. So that's all. And thank you for listening and watching, and take care and have a great evening.